We often assume that chronic hardship stems from a lack of faith, but many who struggle most are also those who pray the hardest. Look at this photograph. This captures the physical reality of a life trapped in cycles of poverty and chronic stagnation. Often, those experiencing this devastation possess an intense, unwavering faith, yet their suffering remains. Now look at this gathering. You are seeing a sea of raised hands. These are people pouring exhaustive effort into praying, fasting, and attending services. They are doing everything right, yet seeing no tangible change in their daily lives. Many believers approach spiritual warfare as a test of physical endurance or willpower. The logic assumes if a problem persists, we simply need to pray louder or fast longer. But if immense, exhaustive effort yields zero freedom, the physical exertion itself is missing the target. The believer is operating under a set of rules that do not govern this specific conflict. The spiritual realm operates as a strict, binding legal system. It is not just a chaotic, disorganized physical battlefield where the loudest person wins. Demonic forces lack the power for random attacks. They can only operate with established, formal authorization. Imagine shouting at an intruder standing in your living room, demanding they leave. Your volume is useless if that intruder is holding a valid legal deed to your property. In this system, legal jurisdiction is the currency. Like a verified keycard bypassing a secure firewall, a spirit enters a life by presenting a valid right of entry. Persistence in a spiritual battle often indicates that the opponent holds a valid, unchallenged legal claim over your life, a claim that brute strength cannot overcome. To reclaim your territory, you need to understand how these entities secure their jurisdiction. There are specific legal access points that allow darkness to bypass the spiritual defenses of salvation. The most deeply rooted of these entry points is the covenant. A covenant is a binding agreement between two parties. In the spiritual realm, these agreements are often generational, established by ancestors, and typically ratified by blood. An ancestral covenant functions like an inherited lease. An agreement made generations ago remains in force even when a new owner moves in. This historical contract acts as a loophole, utilizing inherited authorization to move directly through a believer's personal protective shield. Until you legally challenge that historical contract in the spirit, the ancestral claim remains active and enforceable. Beyond inherited covenants, there are personal access points, beginning with disobedience. Consistent disobedience actually functions as an active spiritual force. It explicitly grants legal jurisdiction back to the enemy. The third access point is ignorance. In spiritual jurisprudence, ignorance of your legal rights defaults power to the oppressor. Darkness thrives passively when a believer fails to understand or legally enforce their own spiritual immunity. This legal framework requires us to redefine deliverance. It is a formal procedure, not an exhausting shouting match. Deliverance is a system for experientially establishing the victory that has already been won. It is a legal injunction. It is a formal ruling from a higher court that nullifies old demonic contracts. Once that authorization is revoked, your defenses solidify, closing the loopholes and blocking access. Instead of exhausting yourself fighting for a victory, you are enforcing a legal right that is already established. Deliverance is the procedure that bridges the gap. It takes a theological promise and turns it into physical, lived reality. In a legally cleared life, a lawful captive becomes a full possessor of their inheritance. Look at this landscape. These lush agricultural fields are blooming in the middle of a harsh desert in Israel. This is the physical result of an ancient, legally sustained covenant that overrides natural environmental limitations. When you remove a spiritual legal blockage, the proof is sudden, unhindered progress. The resistance simply ceases to exist. Years of failure are replaced by restored opportunities, which arrive the moment the legal injunction is served in the spirit. Your inheritance is legally yours, but deliverance is the required procedure to take physical delivery of it. Legal enforcement requires intentional action. You have to actively serve the notice on the opposing forces. This legislative work is most effective during the mystery of the night. In the spiritual realm, a new day officially begins in the evening. These hours function like a fertile field, a uniquely receptive window where the spirit is ready to receive the seed of spiritual decrees and legal injunctions. Dedicate 15 minutes every night to this task. Use that time to actively enforce your deliverance, challenge foundational covenants, and exercise your legal rights. An unenforced legal victory is never experienced. It is time to formally close the door on darkness.